What's up, guys? Here are my predictions for UFC fight happening in Norfolk, Virginia this Saturday. The card's gonna start 2 hours before the usual time slot, and the card is pretty much like the same caliber as the last fight night card, but just we have a title fight at the end of it. But overall, some pretty good matchups. I mean, you got Luis Pena versus Steve Garcia, which is a good fight. Tom Breeze is on the card facing Brendan Allen, which should be one of the best fights on the entire card in my opinion. Tom Breeze is definitely one of, if not the most talented fighter on this entire card. Grant Dawson is someone to look at. Quilty Lapa versus Magomed Ankalaev is a very good fight as well. The co-main event a lot of people are looking at because of the winner of that might be the next opponent for Amanda Nunes, and then the title fight, obviously, by far the best fight on this entire card. But we're going to start with Quilty Lapa versus Magomed Ankalaev, which should be a very explosive fight and most likely going to end with a knockout or a TKO. And this fight pretty much resembles power versus precision. They are both on the complete opposite of the spectrum when you look at their striking. Quilty Lapa, absolute powerhouse. Always throws himself in the fire, sometimes gets burned, but more often knocks out his opponent. But the thing is, when he fights a guy like Ankalaev, who is very cerebral, he is so open to counter shots because he doesn't set anything up. Sometimes a jab, sometimes he likes to hand fight. He's doing that a lot more these days, especially in his last fight against Khalil Roundtree. But he just wings out that right overhand, almost like he relies on it too much. And he's not going to catch a guy like Ankalaev with that kind of shot without setting up properly or hurting Ankalaev with something else beforehand. Quilty Lapa, his last fight against Khalil Roundtree, the striking was a little bit problematic. He didn't get caught that much, but the things he was attempting to land that he goes to every single fight were just not successful. They were missing. Even a guy like Khalil Roundtree Jr., who isn't the fastest guy with movement, able to evade most of those overhands, threw some good body kicks at him, and Quilty Lapa had to resort to wrestling a lot more. An obvious reason for that is Roundtree wasn't really a good wrestler, very good striker, but wrestling aspect was a giant vulnerability for him. That is not going to be the same thing with Ankalaev because Ankalaev, I believe, is a better wrestler than Quilty Lapa. So it's most likely going to force striking exchanges, and Ankalaev is going to be the southpaw fighter versus the orthodox Quilty Lapa. Now, you would think the lead hand of Ankalaev is not going to be that much in play, but he just happens to find that check right hook on everybody. Look at his last fight against Lungiambula, who is just as powerful and explosive as Quilty Lapa. Fights very similar actually, same kind of punches and all that. Lungiambula is also orthodox, and Ankalaev was able to deal with him very well, especially with that right hand of his. And Ankalaev was just able to slide just on the outside of those overhands, outside of those looping punches, and catch him with a check right hook. He was setting up a lot of kicks as well, and I think it conditioned Lungiambula in the third round to fall into the front kick to the face, because Ankalaev was going to the legs a lot and the body a lot. Yes, he was throwing around kicks to the head, but the low kicks and the front kicks were mostly landing to the legs and to the body, which shows his fight IQ out there. The biggest problem with Ankalaev is just sometimes, man, he just stays a little bit too close and gets too comfortable there. And the other thing is, yes, Ankalaev's kicks are very powerful, but they're not that fast, and it does take a long time for him to retract. That's why Lungiambula was able to rock him in the first round with that overhand right after he blocked the kick. So I can see Quilty Lapa catching Ankalaev if he's too close, or he's throwing too many of the same kicks and then gets countered because of it. But ultimately, my prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with Magomed Ankalaev, and I am going to go by a second round TKO. I think the wrestling is going to be shut down by Quilty Lapa, which I'm pretty sure he's going to attempt as he sees the strike is not going his way. Those counter right hooks are just going to keep adding up damage, and I can see some kind of left uppercut catching Quilty Lapa and dropping him. And then we're going to go to the main event, Joseph Benavidez versus Deiveson Figueiredo. A lot of people are not too high on this fight, mainly because the two best flyweights have left the division or left the UFC, so we're left with who people say is the second or third best flyweight in Joseph Benavidez versus the new face wild man in Figueiredo. Now, if Joseph Benavidez wins this fight, a lot of people are going to say that the flyweight division is pretty much dead, but if Deiveson Figueiredo wins this fight, now the division looks a little bit more alive or a little bit more exciting, but we have to see how the fight goes, man. And this fight is going to show straight punches versus looping punches, and at the end of the day, Figueiredo's going to have an advantage because of that. He stands long in that karate stance, fights very long, he's very big, he's a lot more precise with his punches, and he throws his punches a lot more straight than Benavidez. Benavidez, even though he's pressuring, even though he has a lot of power, and he tends to catch his opponents with those looping shots, his punches are almost always hooks. Almost always. You rarely see him throw jabs, you rarely see him throw straights. And that aspect alone, also with the power that Figueiredo has, might be the most powerful flyweight in the division. I would say first all time, or second only to John Lineker. I think Figueiredo's eventually going to catch Benavidez and drop him. Now, does that mean he's going to win like that? No, I just see in the 5-round fight, Eventually, either early or late, Figueiredo is going to catch Benavidez and drop him. Contrary to his sniper-like style, when he is drawn into more of a war, into a brawl, he shows that wild nature of himself. He's a wild man at heart. He has already showcased a great chin, an extreme composure to the point where he just doesn't care. It looks like he does not care, even if he throws himself in risk to get knocked out. And he will answer everything you do with power punching. So staying on the outside and being more technical against Figueiredo, that sniper-like style is very hard to deal with. But not only that, Figueiredo is evenly as dangerous to brawl with. That's a very rare quality in a fighter. Not only being dangerous from the outside because of their sniping-like precision and power and their technical approach, but they are just as dangerous to brawl with. Who else is like that? Maybe Amanda Nunes. You rarely ever see fighters able to do both. He's a wild man. He's very long and very big for the division. He has 15 pounds of walk-around weight on top of Benavidez. That is a lot, man. I mean, we're talking about a guy that cuts from 165. He has actually cut from 165 before for a short notice fight. That's crazy, 40 pounds. He keeps a very long, wide karate stance, which is the double-edged sword fighting a guy like Benavidez. He's going to be very hard to hit in the head. He's going to be very easy to hit Benavidez with those straight shots and move out after. But the leg kick's going to be a huge weapon for Benavidez. And also the other thing is Figueiredo has really good wrestling, offensively more so than defensively. And he is a legit black belt on the ground. They both submitted Tim Elliott very impressively from both of them. And Figueiredo's guillotines are always in play. They're always dangerous. I don't see him submitting Benavidez. I think it's going to be a very hard thing to do. I think a more likely way is to knock out Benavidez with a straight right hand of his or an uppercut, as Benavidez likes to pressure a little bit too much and he's not the best with head movement. So the best ways for Benavidez to have success in this is generally just to offset Figueiredo, not attack in a pattern, not take a linear approach. There has to be a lot of different things he's going to have to show out there, a lot of retreating, a lot of resetting, a lot of explosions, lulling. Benavidez' success is going to be based on different kinds of pressure and different kinds of resetting, because Figueiredo has two types of an approach: sniper, brawler, and there's really no in between. If Benavidez explodes in, it happens to get inside of those long punches of Figueiredo, and he starts to exchange a little bit, land a combination or something, he cannot stay there, because now Figueiredo's mindset went from sniper to brawler. So Benavidez has to find a way to get out, reset the action, and get back into the outside and offset Figueiredo, because now Figueiredo's going to start chasing a little bit until he feels that the pace has slowed down again so he can turn into a sniper again. So it's not necessarily the kinds of punches, the kinds of techniques, the kinds of attacks and stuff like that from Benavidez. It's more about the types of pressure he takes. And also, there's a lot of different offsetting things, not just boxing and striking in general. There are the leg kicks, of course, on the long stance of Figueiredo, who doesn't really check kicks in general, but there's also the wrestling to mix up the striking, which can completely offset Figueiredo. And the big factors of this fight are cardio and experience, specifically talking about 5-round experience. Benavidez has been shown to pace himself a lot better. Figueiredo doesn't have the worst cardio, right? He can go 3 rounds pretty well. But in his fight with Pantoja, he was able to carry his power and be fresh for like 2.5 rounds. At the end of the 3rd round, like the last 2 minutes or so, he was fading a little bit, which can lead you to anticipate that he will start gassing out in the 4th and 5th rounds as well. Or it's going to change his pacing of a fight. Maybe not attacking as much, maybe not trying to force a knockout as much. He might take a little bit more of a passive approach than his usual style, and that's something we rarely ever seen, except one time when he fought Formiga, right? A lot of people look at that Formiga fight because that was when Figueiredo was smashing everybody, but then all of a sudden he put on a lackluster performance against Formiga and was way too passive. For whatever reason, he talked about it. He said there was like some mental block of his in his fight with Pantoja and then Tim Elliott afterward. He kind of fixed that and went back to his old ways. So I do not expect him to be that passive, but his pacing should be altered just a little bit. And this all goes to my prediction. My prediction for this fight, I am going to go with Joseph Benavidez. Even though I do see him getting dropped or at least hurt in this fight pretty badly, I think the experience and the cardio, as well as his viable options of leg kicking and wrestling, I think eventually he's going to win through a decision. Now, I do see this fight being very close. I think Figueiredo is going to have an advantage in the early rounds, but I think it's ultimately going to come down to the 3rd round and how that's going to play out, which I do believe Benavidez might add up some leg damage throughout those first 2 rounds and then starts taking over the 3rd. So Figueiredo doesn't have the pop in his shots, can't move around like he usually likes to do. But here's the thing, ultimately, I do think it's better for the division and better for the organization if Figueiredo happens to win this fight. A lot of people will say that if Benavidez wins, it can set up some kind of rematch with Henry Cejudo. But if that doesn't happen, every other fight that Benavidez takes part of is not going to be a big fight that a lot of people are going to look forward to. If Figueiredo goes out there and starches Benavidez, like he absolutely can do, now you have a bit of intrigue back into the flyweight division that doesn't include other fighters in other weight classes. And looking at the betting odds here, they're giving Luis Pena like a minus 300 favorite, close to that. 3-1 favorite for Luis Pena, even though the way he's been performing in his recent fights have been more than lackluster. Steve Garcia is not a guy to overlook, and he can absolutely take advantage of some of the stuff that Pena throws out there. Now, I do agree that Grant Dawson should beat Derek Minner, but almost a 5-1 favorite? Both these guys don't have much experience in the UFC. Minner has more experience in MMA. That alone should tell you should not be like a 5-1 favorite for either of them. I do think Grant Dawson should win though. But always the experience factor with these younger guys tends to play more of a part than people anticipated. Meek Anderson is a big favorite against Norma Dumont. I don't think she should be even a 2-1 favorite. She's over a 2-1 favorite, minus 230 here. But the thing is, Norma Dumont is a better grappler, and that's a big hole in Anderson's game. If Holly Holm's able to take you down like that, I'm pretty sure Dumont could do the same thing. The thing is, though, Norma's nowhere near the striker that Anderson is. She doesn't have the same kind of experience on the feet that Holly Holm had to be able to dictate when to wrestle and when not to. She was very comfortable at the distance. I don't know if Norma's going to have the same kind of distance management. And everything else I pretty much agree with. So I hope you guys enjoyed the predictions. And if you did, make sure to thumbs up. If you enjoyed my content, make sure to subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video.